Okay, we're back again, and I think hopefully this time audio is working. I would appreciate it if one of you guys could let me know, because otherwise this will be a big pain in the rear. Okay, Freebs is saying yay, which I guess means sound is working, so good job, buddy. Good. Okay, I'm not sure what I needed to do. I switched to different mics and then I switched back, and switching back apparently fixed it. Okay, so I guess we're going to edit out all that soundless stuff from earlier later on once we post this. But for now, here's the situation. I'm not totally sure where Ned is. We put together a slate of things to talk about today, um, and I can't get a hold of him. It's the downside of remote working. Sometimes you lose track of people. Hopefully he'll be back next week. Maybe if he reappears tonight, he'll pop in, but we'll see. So in the meantime, we've got a bunch of different things to talk about. They're all kind of semi-related, I guess. Um, the big one, of course, well, maybe of course is the wrong word, but the big one I'd like to talk about this week um, is is Apple TV um, and iOS. Because there are a couple developments that are pretty exciting going on that we probably want to talk about. And beyond that, the reason, I guess I should give a little bit of an explanation. The reason we weren't here the past 2 weeks is because I've been traveling like a crazy person. Actually, the first week I was traveling, but probably we could have made it happen. But man, it was the first week after DevCon, and it seemed like time to take a break because we've been, I don't know, busting our butts for a long time. So that was the first week. The second week was the Google Summer of Code Mentor Summit, which was, man, that was pretty cool. That was a good time. And I don't know, I don't have a lot to say about it. It was the Google Mentor Summit. We go as much as we can, hopefully every year if they accept the organization. Um, but it's not a very interesting thing to talk about, so I'm not going to really spend a lot of time dealing with it. Instead, I think let's just flip straight over to the interesting things going on today. So, okay, all right. We're gonna have to do this a different way. Let's do this. This might work. Yeah. So I'm just gonna cover up Kodi with Chrome, and we'll take it from there. So, first thing to talk about this week is the Apple TV and why we don't have it yet, or why we don't have Kodi on it, particularly since there's been all this talk about Plex being on the Apple TV. Um, and the simple answer is Kodi is just a dramatically more difficult to application to work with than Plex in terms of going on to things like the Apple TV. It's really that's the simple answer. Um, we're never. I guess maybe it's worth backing up a little bit to explain why it's so difficult to work on the Apple TV. And also, by the way, guys, Freebs and John Stokes, if my audio is out of sync, feel free to let me know. Um, but anyway, what I was saying is, if you back up quite a ways, Kodi has been on the Apple TV since forever. It's been on the Apple TV 1 and the Apple TV 2. It wasn't on the Apple TV 3, but that was because there was simply no way to get it on there. Um, and the reason it's always been so hard to get on there without jailbreaking is because the Apple TV platform previously never really allowed apps. And so we had to do some kind of crazy jailbreak to get it working, and we had to even if it had allowed apps, we would have had to have been in the Apple Store in the first place, the Apple App Store in the first place. And the trouble here is that we're never going to be in the Apple App Store, at least as we are right now. And that might sound pretty ominous, but it's a simple, it's a pretty simple reality. The reason we're never going to be in the Apple App Store is twofold. First of all, we are Um, yeah. We are not allowed, or sorry, we're not. Which I don't know which one to start with. There are two issues. The first one is the GPL, and this issue is a very debatable one. Um, at issue is the Apple App Store has certain terms and conditions. Uh, Hello TV add-ons. I don't want to yell at you because I don't know what you are, but I really hope you're not a piracy add-on trying to talk to me in here because I'm not going to be very friendly. Um, the first one is a GPL related problem. The GPL has one set of requirements, and the Apple App Store has a different set of requirements for distributing your app. And we're fairly certain that the GPL version 3 definitely just doesn't allow apps that are that are licensed under the GPL to be in the App Store. It's just not allowed. You just can't make it work. Um, that doesn't mean there aren't apps that are in the App Store, but there's a very valid complaint you can make to Apple and get that app removed pretty quickly. Um, Kodi itself is licensed under the GPL v2. We're effectively the GPL v3 because we ship with something called Samba, which is a service that lets you browse other devices on the network, and like if you have a shared video library, see that shared video library. Um, that's so we ship with Samba, which is GPL v3, making us effectively GPL v3. But if you remove Samba and you can do one of two things: go back to an old version of Samba, which is what we used to do not a long time ago, fairly recently. We used to use an old version of Samba that was not as good, but it did the job because we were worried that GPL3 v3 wouldn't work in the Google Play Store even. It was one of the reasons why we spent so much time not going into a Google Play Store. We've reached the point now, excuse me, where we're pretty sure that GPL v3 and the Google Play Store work together. So we've at this point we're not worrying about it, but we're still pretty sure GPL v3 doesn't work with the Apple App Store. The question is GPL v2. What happens then? Uh, and the answer is I don't know, frankly. VLC ran into this problem 2 or 3 years ago. Thanks, Frabes. So the video is slightly behind the voice. For you live viewers, sorry about that. We'll fix it in post once I repost this later on. But the GPL v2, it's a little tricky. It doesn't answer all the questions, and so there's an argument to be made that under V2 you could theoretically get an app into the App Store. I don't actually believe that. I think the GPL v2 still doesn't allow it, but some people disagree. We'll find out, I guess. Someone's going to eventually put one in there that's GPL v2, and we'll see what happens. I know that in the past, somewhere around 2011, VLC, which was licensed under the GPL, went into the App Store, and it caused just a storm, a real problem. VLC got yanked out. All kinds of people were angry. And what they ended up doing was actually getting the copyright license from every single person that ever wrote any VLC code, gave it to, had them sign it over to the organization, and then the organization essentially wrote a new GPL license that was, this is licensed under the GPL except in cases in which it would interfere with the Apple App Store. That was it. That's basically the license. There might be more legalese than that, but that's the general gist. So there's a dual license going on there. It's GPL except for the iOS, the Apple App Store, and that's how they're able to get in to the App Store. They actually wrote their entire own version of Samba, from what I understand, that fits this weird version of the library system. So they've done some pretty amazing things just to get into that App Store. I don't know if we'll ever be able to do that because I don't know. We've been in development since 2003, and we'd have to go back all the way to that point to get, you know, hundreds or thousands of signatures agreeing to give us the copyright. And even then, I don't know if anyone on the team actually wants to go through that. But that being said, that's only the first problem in getting into the App Store. The second problem is something we can't do anything about if we want to be regular Kodi. The Kodi Python system, which is how you get plugins and add-ons and all that stuff, that system is a system that can change the way your iOS device works. It essentially unwalls the walled garden that is iOS, which is something that Apple does not like. It's something that definitely won't work if you want to be in the iOS App Store. So there's your second problem. Let's say for a moment we went back and we relicensed everything and made sure it was all totally cool under the GPL. And our developers didn't leave en masse because they're angry at us for doing that. Even in that situation, we'd still have a problem because we still have all this code in there that runs Python. With that said, it looks like in the forum there's work being done to create a new version of Kodi that has all that removed. That's our best guess as to what people are talking about, or my best guess as to what people are talking about. Whether that'll get in, I don't know. We'll find out. And whether that'll get in and someone won't make a GPL claim that Apple will have to deal with, once again, we'll find out. It'll be, I think, without question, it'll be an interesting next few months to see what happens. And I, for one, am excited to sit back, eat popcorn, and watch the fireworks, and in no other way participate in it because I don't want to deal with that at all. With that said, the next thing on the agenda. So just to recap, Apple on the Kodi on the Apple TV without a jailbreak, probably not going to happen. But with that said, there is a new thing out there that came with iOS 9 that allows us to install Kodi on your iOS device without jailbreaking at all. And that's really cool. It uses Xcode. The requirements are you have to have a Mac, you have to build it yourself, and then you have to have your own license. The key here, the reason why this all works is because having your own license isn't that difficult anymore. Apple removed like the $100 requirement and all kinds of other difficulties. So now, as long as you're able to develop it yourself, or build it yourself, then you should be good to go. So if you go to the Kodi Community Forum, and then under Support, General Support, iOS Support, there's a new section that's pinned here called iOS App Signer. Install Kodi without a jailbreak. And theoretically and evidently, this works as long as you have a Mac and the correct version of Xcode and a bunch of other things that you need to read through here and check out. I can't personally verify whether it works because I don't have an unjailbroken phone. I just install mine the old-fashioned way with the jailbreaking. But for those of you who do have a regular phone, I absolutely check this out. Feel free even to post in the comments whether it works because I don't know, man. I think that would be pretty amazing to be able to install Kodi without needing a jailbreak at all. Doing this, the reason this works, at least under the GPL and App Store and everything, is because you're not doing a release. Every one of those terms of services, conditions, and GPL conditions are all based on the premise that you're going to do a release where you give it to other people, the final finished compiled project. But if you use the iOS App Signer here, then you don't have to do any of that. You do it yourself. You keep it for yourself. You don't release it except maybe to family, but that's a little bit of a different thing. And then you're done. So, check it out. I'll see if I can't post the link to this in the comments below or in the description below once we're all done and I've gotten my voice synced up with the video. Let's see. So that's that. So Next thing on the agenda, I'd like to talk about my trip to San Francisco. In particular, I don't need to talk about the actual trip to San Francisco, where I went to the Google Summer of Code Mentor Summit. That was great. It was really cool seeing all of the other mentors and administrators there from all of the other cool open source projects. But it's not why I want to talk about my trip to San Francisco. What I want to talk about is while there, we talked to three companies, which I think, well, I don't know. I think could have fairly long-standing implications. The first company that we talked to, let's flip it back to this, was Silicon Dust, who makes the HDHomerun series of devices. That was a really cool talk, and I think I didn't sign an NDA, but I think they prefer I don't go too far into exactly everything we talked about. If you go back several episodes, we actually have an interview with Ted, the president of Silicon Dust, and you'll get a lot of the information from that interview there. But it was really kind of an interesting conversation because it confirms some things that I have been, I don't know, that have been an opinion of mine for a long time, and I'm sure I've gone off on this before. But we spend a lot of time talking about the Silicon Dust DVR system, and I can't show you images from that because, once again, I don't think they want me to, and I don't want to piss anybody off for the moment. Um, but what they've done, and what man, it's been something that I've wanted somebody to do for so long that it's so cool that somebody finally did it. What they did with this DVR was separate out channels from shows because because it's idiotic that we're still using a grid system for TV in the modern age. It doesn't make sense anymore to do it that way. Nobody, well, with minor exceptions, very few people watch live TV, and those that do know exactly where and when to watch that live TV, and it'll pop up, the moment you want to watch it. Everybody else, give or take 50% of you or so, you watch TV recorded or after it's aired, or at least later that day. Um, and you don't care what channel it's on, you know? I don't care what channel it's on. I've never cared what channel it's on. Uh, I don't care. Let's say I'm a super fan of The Big Bang Theory. I could not for the life of me tell you what channel that's on cable. I could barely tell you what channel it's on regular TV. It's an unimportant side point. The goal is to watch The Big Bang Theory. It's not to watch over the air channel 12.1. That I don't care. And so what they did with this DVR system was threw all that out. And now you go to your list of shows, and it populates the list of shows from the next 2 weeks, I think, 14 days or something like that. And instead of showing you a grid, it just shows you all the shows that you might be interested in. The most popular shows, the most recorded shows. Not really sure how they figured out which ones you might be most interested in, but they do, I guess. And then you have the opportunity to say, I want to record this show. Um, and it does the rest. You don't. That's the other thing. You don't go in to your life, your TV show watching practices with the intent of recording The Big Bang Theory season 2, episode 3 times, which is what DVRs have done forever. They pay no attention to the episode title or the episode number. They just record every episode there is, sometimes 20 times over. That's ridiculous. Instead, what they do is they record every episode that exists one time. So, and then they slowly fill in your library. So, if you've got The Big Bang Theory, but you started on episode 3 of the season 2, they'll look for reruns and they'll record all that back data until your library is completely filled up. I don't want to say, well, I guess I'll just say, while we were talking about this, the idea struck me that this is This is substantially like the way certain piracy applications work. And most notably, an application called Sickbeard or Sonar. Um, the way those applications work, you say which series, which show you want to watch, and it fills in the backlog. It does it through piracy means, but that's what it does. It's very convenient, very fantastic for that. The HD Home Run, as far as I can tell, their DVR system is going to do exactly the same thing, but legitimately, which is, man, it's like the dream, right? How awesome would it be to actually have all of those shows and not at any moment think to yourself, I got these wrong. Because you didn't, because you got them exactly how you were supposed to get them, over the air, recorded, or on cable or whatever, but you did it right. Ah, so cool. So yeah, so that was our talk with HD Home Run. But we got into more other stuff. They showed us like demos of what everything actually looks like. And I think partly the reason they don't want us to show everything is because I don't know how much those demos actually are going to represent the final product. But the general idea is, wow, it's cool. Um, so we talked to HD Home Run. Excuse me, Silicon Dust, who makes HD Home Run. That's a little bit like XBMC making Kodi. Nobody ever wants, well, everybody wants to talk about XBMC, but they not for the same reason. Anyway, we talked to them. The second group we talked to, I don't have a tab for it, but it was Flirk. And I can't tell you why we talked to them, at least not at the moment. We'll get back to this. It's going to be very cool. You are going to be pumped. Well, at least some of you are going to be pumped. I'm pumped. The final group we talked to was in the nice people at NVIDIA, who make the NVIDIA Shield and, of course, every other graphics card on the planet. This talk was, oh yes, Vigai commented, looks like all the peaks with unbroken iPhones are all trying to hit that link you mentioned. Oh, did I break the forum? I hope not. Surely not that many people are watching this. Anyway. How many people are watching? Yeah, only 11 people are watching. You 11 couldn't have broken the forum. Don't worry about it. Anyway, so the last group we talked to was the NVIDIA people, and that was a really cool talk too. It was, I think it was more for fun, really, than for accomplishing anything. Uh, the first thing they did was actually sent us back to the labs to show us how a microprocessor is made. And oh shoot, I actually have a chip somewhere. I'll try to bring that around next time. It was really cool though. Man, I think that the thing that most blew my mind was they work on something like a 16 or a 14 or a 15 nanometer scale at this point, which is very, very small. Um, but that doesn't really describe how small it is. To give you a sense of just how tiny each one of these billions of transistors is, the wavelength of a piece of light, if that makes sense, a wave of light, the wavelength of a wave of light, is something on the scale of 500 nanometers, which means that it's impossible to photograph one of these transistors because it's smaller than the wavelength of normal light. How ridiculous is that? So yeah, so they sent us back there and we saw some really expensive machines that are designed to measure things at the atomic scale. And man, wow. Sometimes I think that what we do is pretty amazing, but there are people out there who do, oh my God, oh, science today, man. Anyway, so we took a look at that. They showed us the demo room and showed us that was one fun part. They showed us Kodi running on the Android TV, which hello, yay. That was pretty cool. They also showed us real-time rendering of things using some crazy number of NVIDIA Titan graphics cards all running in parallel. Oh man, it was all really neat. And they showed us the chips, the system used to power all of these cool Google and um, uh, the self-driving cars. Anyway, I'm suddenly blanking on Tesla, self-driving cars. And that was pretty neat too. It was actually it was weird because the same chip that's in the NVIDIA Shield. Here, I'm gonna take it out. The same chip that's in this NVIDIA Shield is the chip um, that is powering your car. Oops, they just used two of them. So how crazy is that? Um, that was another funny thing. The scientist who was showing us all of these chips and showing us how they didn't break. Um, it's interesting the way chips are manufactured these days. They're all basically within a certain variance of perfect. And so the way they determine which chips to sell or which level to sell them on is just to sell the most perfect ones at a higher price. Because the less perfect they are doesn't actually degrade the ability to do things correctly. It just degrades the ability to do things quickly. Um, and so that's how it works. The Titan has the most perfect chip, and whatever your $50 video card is has the least perfect chip. Uh, with self-driving cars, the need to be perfect is so much more because of the fear of death, that I'll answer your post in a second, one on one. But the need to avoid death is such that they take the most perfect chips, but they don't just take the most perfect chips. They have to take the most perfect chip within a sea of perfect chips. So they know for certain that it's totally not broken. Really neat stuff. Um, okay, got some questions here. One-on-one poet asks, how do I log in on the computer instead of my phone? I can't answer you one-on-one because I don't know what you're logging into. So answer me what question or what you're logging into, and I'll answer you how to do it. Freebs ask, is HDHomerun in USA only? Freebs, no, it's not actually. It's in the US. They do have a number of devices that are available, or at least in testing. I think they're available, but they're definitely eyeing the European market for certain. Um, with that said, uh, the DVB spec in Europe is pretty weird. And there are a bunch of different kinds, and a lot of them deal with encryption. And so while they're in Europe, I think at the moment they only work with unencrypted signals in the DVB arena. So there's your answer. If you have unencrypted DVB in Europe, then it works. Um, if you have in the US, there are only two specs. There's ATSC, which is the over-the-air spec that's unencrypted. It definitely works there. Um, and actually, HDHomeruns also work with cable cards, so they work with encrypted. They work with encrypted stuff on cable too. Um, with that said, though, Kodi can't actually view any of the encrypted channels right now. There's conversation about how we might work around that, but I don't know if it's ever going to happen. It's like a maybe possibility 6 months down the road, and that would all kinds of things would have to go right. So for now, let's assume Kodi's never going to be able to show that encrypted stuff. They do have their own applications that'll do the work for you. Um, Shoot. So I lost track where I was going. Oh, so we talked to NVIDIA, and we kind of, I don't know. Mostly we just talked about how to keep going forward with not just Shield's Android TV, but Android TV in general, because everyone benefits the more that Google improves, essentially. For example, right now we're getting to the point where we're moving on to the next version of Android for the Android TV, and that's going to allow all kinds of new neat things. Like it's going to be a lot easier to do HD audio. It's going to be a lot easier to do weird frequencies for weird frame rates for movies, things like that. So that was sort of the general talk that we talked about, or the gist of what we were talking about. Um, and I think that just about covers it. It's been about 30 minutes. Um, and I'm kind of out of things to talk about. I had a few things I wanted Ned to chat about, but since he's not here, we'll skip those. Maybe we'll bring him up next week. In the meantime, guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for sticking around long enough to actually still be around after our 2 week hiatus. It's great to see you all back. I'm pretty happy to be back myself. And here's to another year of Kordkutters. Have a good night.